There's something in today's world that I think a lot of men struggle with, but are unwilling to admit, or maybe they simply don't see it. And that's the fact that I think a lot of us are bored. And that's what I want to talk about today. Whether you find yourself surfing through Netflix for the next show to watch, or you're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, at some point you feel a little unsatisfied in your heart. And I want to give you the answer to how we can get out of that place of feeling stuck. How can we remedy this boredom? But first, I really want to look at what is boredom. Hi, my name is Nick Clooney. I'm a Catholic Psych mentor and partner, and I run the Hey Brother podcast, this is an extension of that. This is a short episode building off of our last episode with Father Ethan, where he talked about the key to living an adventurous life, the key to living with freedom. So I invite you to check that out. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe, as we all journey to become more the men that God's made us to be. So boredom. We're talking about boredom. What is boredom? And we can throw a lot of things at it. And I think we mean a lot of different things when we talk about being bored. Is being bored something we're simply running away from life? That's an element of it. That's why we find ourselves going to Netflix or social media to numb ourselves from something we're running from. Or is boredom something actually that's really good? Or maybe even boredom can be an effect of sin. And I think that's one area that I want to highlight is boredom can be that. It's just simply that what is sin? It's this thing that keeps us trapped in the same patterns of life over and over and over again. In a lot of ways, the enemy doesn't think of new ways to attack us, and he just does the same thing over and over and over again, which is boring. We wake up, we follow into the same pattern each day of going to work, getting our morning coffee or morning routine in, go to work, have the same problems there, come home and drained from the workday, try to make dinner, try to relax, and we find ourselves trapped in the same patterns. And sometimes maybe it's just the mundanity of life that we find ourselves trapped in. Other times it's the same habitual sins that we keep coming back to. And that can make life feel very boring. But I think at the core of what we mean by boredom, and most people mean this when they say I'm bored, is really a lack of purposeness, or a lack of purpose, lack of meaning in life. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. I don't think people authentically mean that we're bored. And so I want to give you an answer to that question of how can I find purpose in life? But first, why is boredom good? Boredom points to the fact that there's a transcendental reality. We should praise God that we're bored, because we're not made for this life. We're going to get bored, and that's okay. We're allowed to be bored with what we're experiencing in this world. We're allowed to be bored with the fact that we're trapped in the same patterns of sin. Right? If our every day looks exactly the same and we're coping with our problems in the exact same way through alcohol, through pornography, through all different ways that keep us kind of disengaged from life, then yeah, life is going to be boring. And I think it's something that as men, we face a huge depletion in our energy, or in our society today, in culture today, where men are trapped. We're not engaged. We're not living life to the full. There's something deeper. There's something more that we want to be living to, which bleeds into really that question of purposelessness. And so boredom itself is good because it points to something deeper. If we can just simply sit there and let ourselves be bored with life, that's okay, because we're made for more. We're made for something that is exciting. And we can be bored with Netflix. We can be bored with these things. But what I want to really tackle is the question that lies underneath is not actually boredom, but it's this purposelessness that we feel. Why do we feel purposelessness? That's why we're running more times than not, is because I don't really feel like I have a true purpose in life. And these things that I'm talking about go hand in hand. This fear of not having a mission, not having a purpose, and being trapped in the same old patterns of sin, they go together. When we can start to free ourselves from the traps of the same sin, we start to break out of that, then we start to that's our purpose, right? To break out of these things, to break out of our shells, to break out of the things that hold us back from really being the authentic gift of self that God's calling us to be. That is what can give us purpose. But it can feel daunting. It can feel like this big task to be like, I need to constantly strive for sainthood. But when we look at our lives, what are we really living for? What are we really asking of ourselves? What are our loved ones asking of ourselves? Asking of us? And that's not to put pressure on us to be perfect or to get it right all the time. We're going to fail, right? That's like almost a given in life. It's not like when I fail or if I fail, but it's like when I fail. And how we respond to that. If we really want to live authentic, exciting lives, the cure, the remedy to boredom is to strive for holiness, is to strive to become more who we're called to be, to start to break out of these patterns, these boring patterns of sin, to start to actually engage in life. I think that's such a big lie, such a trap that we believe, is that we're victims of our circumstance. And while certainly there are shitty things that happen to us in this world, our response is always ours. That's what Viktor Frankl says in Man's Search for Meaning. He's like, we can never extinguish a man's ability to respond to the situation he finds himself in. And that's what I want to offer you as this remedy to boredom, as this remedy to purposelessness, is that you can engage in life. That you have a choice to strive to become really who God's created you to be. And that's what I want to leave you with in this episode of the Hey Brother podcast. Just a short but challenging episode to really look at yourself and be like, do I want to live this boring life, or do I want to do something differently? Do I actually want to engage? And I'm not saying it'll totally eradicate every boring moment of your life or totally make life easier to say, yeah, I'm going to engage. But it's so much more fulfilling to be like, I'm going to try. And if I fail, all right, great. Let's keep going. At least I have something that I'm shooting for. At least I'm shooting for sainthood. At least I'm shooting for something that's going to make me a better man. That's going to make me a better husband. That's going to make me a better brother. That's my shooting point. That's what I want in life. And that's what I encourage you guys, every man who's listening to this, to take from this is like, how am I engaging in life? Whether I've been challenged that way before or this is the first time. What can I do to shed a little bit more of those old patterns, those old things that keep me trapped in mediocrity, and start to aspire for greatness? What I do as a mentor is help men do exactly that, is to really look at what part of our life is keeping me back from being the saint that God's calling me to be. And this is a small invite to anyone who's listening, any man that's listening, to check out my page, crafterformore.com, if you really want to strive for sainthood. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the only way to strive for sainthood, right? Like, we can strive for sainthood in so many authentic and awesome ways, but this is my invitation to you that if there's something going on, if you find yourself trapped in those patterns, check it out. I would love to walk with you. It's amazing to see what God does through the modality of mentorship and help us to really be more authentically alive and engaging in life. So thanks for watching. Go ahead and subscribe, follow us on the podcast platforms, and we'll catch you next time. God bless.